voiceover friends. It is Ryder, the VO life coach. You've heard me as national brand voice for NASCAR, the professional bull riders, and of course Ford trucks. And you are listening to the VO Life podcast. Now, pay attention.
Welcome to the VO Life, a podcast for those who are trying to figure out how to build a career in VO from a guy who just seems to always learn the hard way. Now here's your host, Troy Holden.
Hey, and welcome back. The unrehearsed, unplanned version of episode 142 of the VO Life. Thank you, Mark Ryder and Rudy Abell, for that wonderful, lively introduction today. And we'll try to stick a couple of more snippets in as we go. But today, officially, it's May 13th. This podcast is going to come out probably the afternoon of. And it's also the day that I made the decision yesterday to officially go into demo production under the guise of 615, which is the area code for Nashville, 615 Productions, or 615 Media or something. No official name yet, but the 615 is going to be used. And basing this on what? Let's get into all of that right after this.
I'm Casey Hawk, and you're listening to Troy Holden on the VO Life.
So, Troy Holden, what in the world qualifies you to make demos? Let me turn the clock back, because voiceover has been awesome. But prior to that, I did a lot of music stuff. And a lot of that was some in-studio stuff, a lot of live mixing. Live mixing is different, absolutely, but you develop your ear, and that's where a lot of this comes from. Can I hear it? Can I mimic it? Can I make it sound as good as some of the big guys out there? And there is no way I'm putting up what I've already done up against what a lot of those guys have done, because I have produced about 30 demos in the past couple of years. Some of those were mine, which were probably the worst ones, because I didn't go to someone to direct me or coach me, and I should have. But there are things that maybe aren't as important, like a character or an animation type thing, where I pieced together maybe some things I had actually done, and probably, I wrote a few things just to have some filler where I could use a certain character voice. But where the experience comes from for me, I think, is the ear, and I have a really good ear. I can hear what I think sounds good, and I can go study something and learn it fairly quickly when it comes to how it should be structured. Now, let me say this, and I've heard this on a lot of podcasts lately related to demos. There really aren't any hard facts or known things. There's a lot of opinions. How long it should be, how many spots it should have, et cetera, et cetera. Should it or should not have brand names? I'm a brand name believer. I think I want people to hear it, and I'm going to write you original spots for you, for things you like and things you believe in, because I want to connect you to it, and that's the step one goal. So when you approach it from that thing of tying it in and making, giving you that ownership, and you're going to help. This is not something I'm just going to do it all for you. You're going to help, because I want you involved in the process. I want you to have the ownership. I want you to feel a part of the whole thing, not just you jump on a live session and we go through and you do your reads and in an hour or 2 hours you're done, and that's the end of it. You're going to hear from me spot by spot. You're going to hear some, maybe I'll be at a crossroad on music choice, and I say, here's the two music beds that I'm dealing with. What do you think? Which one do you like better? I think you should be involved in some of that. And then even when it's done, as we go to break it down and we put it in order that you may have input in that. And, of course, yes, you're going to get all your individual spots and you can remix it however you want to remix it if you want to. But I try to give you some really good options so that they are at the forefront. I don't want this stuff to be old. I don't want it to be outdated in 6 months. I don't want you frustrated with it in a month saying I'm not getting any traction with this. I'll be here for you to help you if we need to change the order, change the music track, do what do whatever we need to do to make it good. And that's what it's about. Now, and also keep in mind, when we talk about demos, not just length and not just this or that, but it's very subjective as to who will like your demo. You've seen it. You've seen where you could send it to 10 people and 6 of them like it and 4 of them go, that's not really that great. And then out of the 6 that liked it, 2 of them might have a couple of suggestions. I would move this spot to here, and whatever. 10 people, 10 different opinions, most likely. I mean, it's very subjective. Even when you're sending it out and getting some feedback from whether it's production houses, agents, whatever, it's going to be subjective. It is what it is, and that's not going to change. So why am I doing this? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is I'm in this full time, and what I am finding as the further along I go in full time, I have over the last year been able to open up time. And I'm making better money as a voice actor, but I'm not having to do as much auditioning, as much marketing. I've become more focused on my auditions. Why waste my time on that? I'll never book that. Don't do it. And I've learned to pass a lot, especially on the pay-to-play platforms. My direct business is good. I kind of have a handle on that. And I know that I can realistically do, a couple of demos a month. I'm not looking to do more than that. I'm not looking to make this the big part of my business. I want to do it because I really, really enjoy it. And I really get into working with people. And I just enjoy it. I don't know any other way to put it. And the more I've done it, the last handful that I've done, let's say the last 5 demos that I did, I'm really proud of them. Now, the other 20, 25 before that, I'm not saying they were terrible, but I'm saying I've learned a lot. I think I have gotten better with the material. I've gotten better with music choices. I've gotten more acclimated to how they should sound and how quickly you should be in and out of different feels on them, how it should change, how the roller coaster ride should be fun and exciting all the way through the minute and so many seconds, and is there a magic number? Is it a minute 10, a minute 15, a minute 30, minute 21? No. Shorter the better, I think, if you can get your point across in shorter, quicker ways, and I would rather have, 5, 10 and 12 second spots that are really, really powerful and they really showcase your voice than have, 5, 15, 17 second spots, because whoever's listening, they need to hear you change gears and change gears pretty quickly, in my opinion. Kind of back to, again, what qualifies you. You've only been in voiceover for about 4 years, right? Yeah, I've only been in it about 4 years. But like I said, prior to that, I've been in and around music and done music pretty much my whole life. And I've always had a really good ear for things. So I think that is really going to play into this. And I love working with people. I'm easy to work with, and usually they are as well. And I think we'll just have fun doing it. Now, the other thing is price point, because there are going to be people to say, well, you're just doing it way cheaper just so you can get business away from others. And that's not the case, because I will only do a couple a month. I will never dedicate myself to more than that, because I don't have time. I do have time to do a couple a month, but as ingrained as I will get with it, that's all I can do is a couple. So this is not a thing of, well, he's just doing that to make money because he's not making money in voiceover. That's not the case. I don't have to do this. I'm doing it because I enjoy it and I want to do it and I want to help people. And I also realized, I went many years ago, not that long, let's say 16 years ago. And I was in Southern gospel music, and there were studios that you could go in that would have all the Dayspring. Is it Dayspring? I think it was publishing. You could use their soundtracks and record. So it's basically a lot like a voiceover. You just went in and sang with the track. And, they made sure you didn't miss anything. You didn't have any, flat spots or whatever. They'd go back and listen. You could go back and listen. If you need to re-record, you could come in and re-record. You had to go to the studio, of course. And I think the price, even back then, was only about $500. And then you could get the rights to use the tracks. That was a little extra. But I think what I'm getting at is, even back before that, I was in a country band. We went into the studio, all live instruments, and recorded a 12-cut album, or, well, it wasn't an album. It was a CD at the time. Well, when CDs were already out by then. And there were no albums, and I know albums are back popular now. But we cut that whole thing, and of course that was the days of tape. It was, mixed, everything done and all. And if I remember, it was about $600, $500-600. And that was all of us in there recording individually and doing everything we did. And it was a long time ago. But what I'm trying to wrap my head around with today and today's rates is, I want to do what's fair. I don't want to come out and I'm not trying to cheapen this up at all, but I'm also doing it to where I know that it's looking at it from an hourly perspective, how much I want to make an hour when I'm working on something like this, and how many hours it would typically take. And putting a final price on it and saying, I'm comfortable with this, and this is what I'll do. Will it go up someday? It may. If I get busier and I don't have as much time, will I have to farm some stuff out? No. That's where I'll have to stop, because if I can't be 100% the person that's doing everything on it, I don't want to do it. And I know there are others that don't do it that way, and that's great. That's fine. Whatever works. But I want to offer a all-in-one thing. It's all with me. I'm going to vet your studio, vet your sound. I'm going to make sure that you're coached up and ready. So when we get into recording you, that we can walk through several takes of each spot, and you're going to understand when I'm saying do this to make them different. And then as we cut them down and work on them, I absolutely want to make sure your audio's good, because you're going to record it, and I don't want you sending me something that sounds like you're at the kitchen table. I got into a kind of a partnership with somebody a couple of years ago that they were coaching people, and I checked into them, and they seemed to be pretty legit in what they were doing. But the people they were coaching, I guess they were coming to the studio to do some things. Well, then they decided to they wanted to get some samples made, and they would send me their reads, and their reads weren't bad. It's just the audio was awful, and I had to stop that relationship. I had so much trouble trying to cover that up. And because I was kind of on the hook for the first couple of people, I agreed to do it for 2 people right out of the chute, and I didn't vet their audio. So now I know better. I want to vet the audio up front. I want to vet your studio, just like when you go to Uncle Roy, Georgia Tech, and they say, give me so many seconds of room noise, and then you read, and I want to hear you, and so I can see what you sound like on the mic, just raw. And I need to know what your setup is, and then we go from there. And then if all that works, then we'll move on, and you get the big questionnaire I'll send you to get the process going on the commercial side. And that is the plan right now, to focus on commercial demos. I don't know enough about e-learning to do those, so I'm not going to do it. I don't do e-learning hardly at all, so I don't want to do e-learning demos. Automotive, I can do. I would rather you go to Cliff Zellman, because you're going to get the 1,000% professional touch. But if you say, I just want one automotive spot, for a sample, well, yeah, I can help you with that. I'm not sure I could put together a fantastic full automotive demo, but if if you really need one and you don't have the money to spend elsewhere, we'll talk about it. And then when it comes to anything else, I have done one in-show / documentary narration, and it was on the female side, and it was reviewed by someone very prominent in that genre, and they said other than one spot being too long and the entirety of it, which made the entirety of the demo too long, it was very well done, very well performed, and very well produced. So I'm on cloud nine with that because that was unexpected, and especially you get that feedback that quickly. So I would approach those because I did write all the copy for that demo, and if someone's interested in that, I would be willing to work with you on that, and we'll talk about it. But mainly, what I want to look at is commercial, and also look at people just needing a few samples. Maybe you only need 2 samples. Maybe your demo's recently been done. It's a pro demo, and it's pretty good, but you just don't have a really good this type sample or that type sample. I'll be glad to work with you on that, and just individual samples, and give you a really good, a 30-second spot or a 15-second spot or whatever you want, and happy to work with you on that. So, yes, this podcast is a pitch today for what I'm doing and launching, and I apologize for that. But if you're in the group or not in the group or whatever, and you're looking at possibly doing a demo and you feel like you're ready, you're coached up, you've been doing it a while, and you just know you're ready, reach out, Troy at TroyHoldenVoices.com. And we'll set up, I've got a thing on my website. You can go on there and actually book a 15-minute free consultation. It'll usually go way over 15 minutes, and that's fine. Still free. I just want to get to know you and where you're at, and what you're looking for, and then we'll go into the testing of the audio. And once I understand where you're at in your journey, who have you worked with, who have you coached with, maybe you're already booking. Maybe you've been doing it a little while. Maybe you just need a refresh, so happy to help. And enough about that. I also want to shout out to the VO Booth besties who just recently did a very deep dive into demos, and I think that's what helped me realize I knew more than I thought I knew. I understood it better than I thought I did. And as I listened to all those interviews they did, and I don't know that they're all even posted yet, but I keep going back and digging one up here and there. Sometimes I'll go, that doesn't sound right. Why would they do that? Or I'll say, yes, that's the way it should be. I guess the thing with all of that is it sort of inspired me to say that, yeah, you know what? It's okay to do this. Now, let me say on the other side, I still do not offer and will not offer coaching. I can't coach. Can I get you through the reads for your demo? And somebody said, well, if you're not a coach, how could you do that? There's a difference, and there's a big difference. I'm not teaching you a method. You've already coached. You should have your methods. You should know how to approach your copy, how to pick out the moments in the copy, how to change gears in the copy. I can identify when you're off doing that, and I'm like, well, shouldn't you do this, or try it this way, or maybe you should lower your voice 30%, or maybe you should slow down, things like that, where I know it sounds right. And that's the thing, coming back to the ear thing. I listen to every commercial that comes on the radio and everything that comes on TV, and I kind of understand the cadences and patterns and things that are going on, and trying to keep up with it. And I do believe I can apply that in a session when we're doing your spots. But no, I don't have a what would you call it? A curriculum or anything to teach. I don't have that. And most good coaches do. They've developed that over the period of years, where they have been coached by miscellaneous many coaches, and they took this from this one and this from that one and that from this one, and you know what I'm saying. And they put that in their potpourri pot, and they stirred it up, and they came up with their way to do it, which had a little mix of everybody. How else would you learn? You're not going to just, well, I take that back, unless you're Dave Walsh, because Dave's approach is totally different. as far as TrueTel, but there are only so many things you can do, right? But there are a lot of ways to teach it. And what I've learned as I've been going to other coaches is some coaches, they may be teaching something similar, but the way they teach it registers with me. And the way this one over here taught that, I didn't get that at all. But when I came to this other coach and they taught me the same thing in another way, the light went off and I got it. And, so I don't have that. I don't have a method. But I do believe fully, and you can listen to the samples on the website. I think you'll hear some good spots on there. You'll hear some people that really aren't all the way there yet, but you got to remember some of these people had samples made to put on Fiverr or Upwork. So they had things to try to get started a couple years ago when that was more popular and more prevalent. Now people need more samples for Voice 123 or voices.com, and I'm happy to help with that. Maybe you don't have a harder sell because everything's been so conversational. Maybe you need something that's more upbeat and more, more happy and more swings in your voice. And, maybe everything you got is very conversational. And maybe like me, my automotive demo was a little COVID-ish because we had just come out of lockdowns and everything, and there were no cars at the time. And my automotive demo focused heavily on service and the dealership, and very friendly and very, don't worry. And, and even down to things of you need to come in and order your car because there weren't any cars. You had to order and wait. And I know you remember that. Well, it's not like that anymore. So I'm having to do a refresh, and no, I'm not doing that on my own. I reached out to Cliff and we identified one spot that we could absolutely replace, maybe two, but we're going to start with one and see where we're at. And that's how you do it. You work with your demo person, your demo producer, and try to tweak and fix and make it great. And I'll be happy to do that with you. As I said, I don't want to get overwhelmed with this. I can't handle more than a couple a month, and that's all I want to do. And if I don't get any a month, that's okay. The service is there. If someone needs it, it's available, and I'd love to help. All right? Okay. Are you done pitching yourself now? Well, I hope so, because I'm one of those people that I hate to do that. But, let's get out of here. Let's go do other things. Plenty to do, people to see, grass to weed eat, and these yellow miniature buttercups, many of them to mow down, spray, and hopefully someday get rid of off of our place. These things are terrible. If you live in this area, you know what I'm talking about. The whole field is just yellow, and they're toxic. They're very poisonous. When you cut them, the oil gets in the air and your eyes will just swell up and water for 2 or 3 days, and you'll be clogged up and coughing. And horses will not eat these things because they're toxic. They don't like to eat around them because as they do, the oil gets on their nose and makes warts and blisters, and they're just terrible. Terrible, terrible weeds, as the ex-president would say, terrible, terrible weeds. And so I don't, I got to get out and get that done. So, hey, have a great week. Thanks for putting up with this sales pitch. But I did want to make this a formal announcement. I wanted anybody that had questions, you might get it answered here as to why I'm doing it and what gives me the right and whatever. I mean, somebody posted on the page, and I agree 1,000%. You had to have a day one. You had to start somewhere. And, I've been doing this, like I said, kind of in the background. I've not really publicized it a lot, maybe once or twice in the group. I asked if somebody needed help after workshops. But, it's there if you want to talk about it, and I'm always happy to talk to you. Everybody have a good week. We'll catch you the next go round on the VO Life, and be sure and join us on another VO podcast every Thursday, actually. Even though we say Friday, you can get it on Thursday. Every Thursday, usually it's up by early morning, and we've had some great guests on there, and we got more to come. A lot of things going on with, of course, we mentioned on there with Jake taking a work-at-home job that may, sometimes may affect us being able to jump on the podcast at a certain time. We're trying to iron that stuff out. But we really enjoy it and look forward to seeing you there as well. If you haven't listened, jump over to Another VO Podcast. And see you in the funny papers.
This podcast was produced under the authority of the Podcast Police, who may or may not have investigated the host and guests prior to broadcasting. Any unlawful statements will be investigated further and persecuted to the fullest extent of the podcast law.